Tes 1, 2, 3. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to today's public lecture, Holding the State Accountable, Human Rights Commitment and Institutional Responsibility, organized by the Asia Pacific Master of Human Rights and Democratization, Department of Politics and Government, Fisipol Universitas Gadjah Mada, in collaboration with Master-in-Law, LLM, Faculty of Law, Universitas Gadjah Mada. This lecture is also part of Human Rights Norms and Mechanism 2 course, a joint course between APMA UGM and LLM UGM. The goals depending our understanding of human rights commitment and institutional responsibility. My name is Gea Anissa and I'm honored to be your host today's event. Okay, now let's be honest. Watching the news these days, it's really feel downright depressing. The first one with Donald Trump, the US from the Human Rights Council withdrawing, and the questionable policies that our local government keeps imposing upon us, the people. It really makes you wonder, is the state truly committed to protecting the rights of its citizens, be it male, female, and other genders? Shouldn't we be holding the state accountable? Well, lucky for us, we have some brilliant minds for today's public lecture. Okay, we are honored to have Ibu Anis Hidayah, Commissioner for the National Commission of Human Rights. Please stand up, Ibu. Joining her is Ibu Andi Yantriani, Chairperson of the National Commission on the Violence Against Women. Please stand up, Ibu. Okay. And guiding today's discussion is Mas Rangga Aditya Dahlan, a lecturer at the LLM Faculty of Law UGM. Please stand up, Mas. Thank you for being here with us today. Without further ado, let us process it into the next part of our program. And now, to officially open today's lecture, we are honored to invite Mbak Sri Wiyanti Ediono, or we fondly call her Mbak Iyi, to give her opening remarks. She is the head of the Master in Law program and the convener of for discourse, specialized in the human rights law and has extensive experience in human rights activism and research. Please give a warm welcome to Mbak Iye.
Okay, good morning, everyone. How are you today? It is a very honor to have you all here. So it is a very interesting, will be very interesting discussion for us as well. So the seminar is designed as part of the course of norm and mechanism of human rights as um, the moderator has, not the moderator, the MC has already mentioned, it is part of the ASEAN Pacific course of master programs. It is organized or basically by the Mahidol University, but also in collaborations with UGM, particularly the Department of Politics and Governments, and then Master in Laws, Human Rights, Master in Laws in UGM. So it is a honor collaboration. We have these collaborations more than 5 years already. I think there is one alumni from here as well who is taking a PhD now in Australia. So we are happy to have you here as well. So what is about the course, the discussions today? I think when we discuss about human rights norms and mechanisms, we do understand that human rights cannot be implemented if there is no mechanism or if the mechanism to implement is very weak. So that is why part of the course we also discuss about the mechanisms to fulfill of the rights. So we do understand there are two different kind of mechanism, whether it is international mechanism, you know that UN mechanism by treaties, mechanism by UPR, they are very popular now. But as you may aware, in human rights mechanisms, yeah, whenever there is a human rights violations, it means that it will prioritize to have a settlement through the national mechanism first, right? The remedy in domestic level become very important. So that is why we here we will learn from national human rights mechanism, which they are diverse as well. Yeah, in national mechanism on human rights, there would be the national human rights institution, the law enforcement, and also the government practices. So what we will discuss today is specifically talking about national human rights mechanism through national human rights institution. Okay, so even though there is a standard on national human rights institution in international level through what we call that Paris Principle, this Paris Principle is kind of like a standardized, yeah, about and how the national human rights institution applies in different countries. But in Indonesia, it's very unique because we have what we call that national human rights institution, but we in the general one, with really basic based on the Paris Principle, but we also establish a special or specific human rights institution. So we do have the National Human Rights Commission on Violence Against Women, which the chairperson is in front of you, that is Bu Andi, yeah. And then we do have the National Commission of the Child Right. We do have the National Commission on Person with Disability, but the National Commission on Child Right and the National Commission on the Right of Disability will have a different status, yeah, with the National Commission on Human Rights, with the National Commission on Violence Against Women. I think both of them will explain a bit later on when we will discuss about how they do work, implements the human rights. So, because of that, it is a pleasure to have you both to discuss about your institution. What are the role of your institution to promote and to protect human rights. And then what are the obstacles for you both in implementing the mechanism? In this project or in this program, we clearly emphasizes about human rights, usually the way how human rights established in norm, and then the way of human rights implementing is very influenced by the politic and the state stability, the government's interest of the human right. I think one of your sharing perhaps also discuss about how independent you are or how unindependent you are. So we want to know about it. We want to have your honest sharing because this is academic spares where we want to know what is inside of the national human right. We don't want to have a very, kind of like, because we can read the law, read the report, right? So we want to have an honest discussion from you. So that is from my introduction, and then again, I welcome all of you. Have a good discussion, and then perhaps we can get a fruitful, lesson learned from this session. Thank you all.
Thank you. Please give it an applause to Mbak Iyi. Thank you, Mbak Iyi, for the insightful opening remarks. And now it's time to welcome today's moderator, the ever so bright and witty, Mas Rangga Aditya Dahlan, a lecturer in Master in Law program, Faculty of Law, UGM, who's just came back from his long pilgrimage in the UK, specializing in human rights and law and international law. He has extensive expertise in human rights research. We couldn't have asked for a better moderator to guide us through today's discussion. Without further ado, please welcome Mas Rangga.
Do I talk now? Is it me? Okay. I don't know if I have extensive expertise. I'm an academic, so I don't know. Hi, my name is Rangga Dahlan. I am a lecturer in human rights law. Oh, goodness. Internal displacement. Let me just start over. My name is Rangga. I am a lecturer of human rights at the Faculty of Law. And I think when we're talking about human rights, we need to be at Fisipol. Because if we're talking about human rights law only as human rights law, we're missing the big picture. But yeah. So I'm very happy today to be moderating two excellent women. And as you can see their profiles from the poster, we have, and I will call them one by one. The first is Ibu Anis Hidayah, who is Commissioner of Komnas HAM for the term 2022-2027, and Ibu Iyi and Ibu Anis would like me to point out that Ibu Anis went to Magister Ilmu Hukum FH UGM, so we're very happy to have an alumna, one of our success stories, certainly, excellent promotion. And the second one is Ibu Andi Yetriani, who is chairperson of Komnas Perempuan for the term 2020 and 2025. So, okay, so when you have competent women as speakers, as a man, your job is to shut up, I think. So I'm very happy to be the token man in this panel and to become the moderator and to just let the moderator speak. And I have been advised that I'm going to give each of you 20 minutes of speaking time in accordance with your expertise. And may I just remind everyone that the topic today is holding the state accountable. So we're looking forward to hearing what Komnas HAM's role is in this regard, what the Komnas Perempuan's role is in this regard, but also and more importantly, according to your human rights. I'm sorry about that language, but I think we are in agreement that we are not in a good state. We're not in a good situation when it comes to human rights. Our very president is, well, never mind. You know, that's dangerous because 58% of you voted for him, so I don't know whether I will be in danger if I say anything about it. But this is a human rights class. Sorry? If yeah. I have a good escape. Yes, of course. I will rescue the both of you. Okay. I could make a report to you. I can make a report to them. Oh God, this is good. I'm in good hands. Okay, so I don't know which one of you would like to go first. Ibu Andi is gesturing to Ibu Anis. Okay, Ibu Anis, I think you will begin first. Without further ado, please give another big round of warm welcome to Ibu Anis Hidayah. I give you the floor.
Selamat pagi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. Halo Mas Rangga, I'm Cinta. Mbak Yi, Mbak Andi, Mas Rangga, and all of participants, thank you very much for giving us as a representative of Komnas HAM to have a discussion with all of you. In the situation, it's very hard because the current policy happening in Indonesia regarding with the budget efficiency, of course, will having an impact to make more reports to us about the ALEC human rights violation. As you know, some ministries that have the mandate how to fulfill the basic rights for every citizen in Indonesia, such as Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, and etc. They're facing the cutting budget from the national budget. So in the next day, the next week, in the next month, we will having so many problems regarding with the fulfillment of the basic rights of us. So, Komnas HAM, maybe next please. Komnas HAM formulated in 1993 when Indonesia facing a very big situation of human rights, when some gross violation of human rights happening in Indonesia, such as Timur, Tanjung Priok, and etc. Then there are very big pressure from international fora to Indonesia how to bringing the gross violation of human rights in Indonesia to be the international forum. Then in that time, the very clever president, Suharto, building Komnas HAM. So you know, the formulating Komnas HAM is really for political reason, not for human rights reason. But after then, in 1998, when Reformation fall, then pressure from many civil society in Indonesia that Komnas HAM have to be strong. And then in 1999, the government of Indonesia have the national law on human rights. And in that law, Komnas HAM have some mandate. Before, in 1991, our mandate already under the presidential decree. So under the human rights law, Komnas HAM have 4 mandate. The first one, how to doing research for human rights situation in Indonesia, doing research for policy that not harmonize with the human rights principle, and how to doing the research if Indonesia need to ratify international instrument to fulfill, to respect, and to protect, yes, protect, respect and fulfill of human rights. So the mandate for the research for Komnas HAM, it's really very different with the mandate to research by BRIN, yeah, that we have now, National Body for Research. Because it's really specific regarding with the situation of human rights. So only Komnas HAM in Indonesia have the mandate how to revise, yeah. Komnas HAM have the availability, have the mandate to say to the government or to say to the parliament that this regulation should be revised, that this regulation should be abolished because of the potential of human rights violation will be happening because of the regulation. That's the first mandate. The second one is human rights education. So Komnas HAM have the mandate how to provide human rights education for state apparatus, military, police, and all of state apparatus in Indonesia. And we intensively doing the human rights education for military, police, and maybe you will asking what the impact. We also asking that if our working in providing human rights education have the impact for the police and military institution in Indonesia. That's our question. And the third one is the mandate to investigate the lack of human rights violation. And the fourth one is human rights mediation. So I will a little bit share about each mandate that we have, maybe next. So Komnas HAM not only have the mandate under the national law on human rights, but we have the mandate in the 5 national law. The second one is the Komnas HAM have the mandate to investigate the alleged gross violation of human rights. And until now, we already investigate 17 gross violation of human rights in Indonesia, such as Semanggi, Trisakti, Talangsari, Tanjung Priok, Abepura, and etc. Yeah. And last year and in this year, we are still doing and finalizing 2 tragedy that alleged to gross violation of human rights. The first one is Bumi Flora case in Aceh, and the second one, the death of activist Munir Said Talib. So that's 2 cases that we are still doing the investigation as our mandate to investigate the alleged gross violation of human rights. The third one is the law regarding with the elimination of racial and ethnic discrimination. Komnas HAM also have the mandate how to monitor the situation in Indonesia regarding with the existing the fact of the racial discrimination that's still happening in Indonesia. The third is the law about the handling the social conflict. Komnas HAM also have the mandate, part of the national task force on the social conflict. And the last one regarding with the national law on eradicating the sexual harassment. So together with the Komnas Perempuan, National Commission of Child Protection, and National Commission of Person with Disabilities. So 4 national human rights institutions. Next. So this is the position of Komnas HAM. Next. Actually, if we are talking about human rights, back to our constitution, mostly under the amendment of our constitution, all of human rights already there. Civil, politic, economic, social, culture already there. Of course, normatively, yes, Indonesian government have the guarantee maybe 100%, yeah, to all Indonesian citizens to be respect, to be fulfilled, and also to be protect. Sorry. In the efficiency of budget, we sometimes coming blank. Yeah, next. Under the Constitution and also the National Law of Human Rights, of course, the constitutionally, there are a state mandatory to respect, to protect, and to fulfill the human right in Indonesia. That's 100 obligation by the Constitution and by the National Law on Human Rights. But Is it already done by the state? We will discuss. Next. Based on the data of the National Human Rights Commission in 2 years ago, 2023, there are more than 5,000 report a lack of human rights violation in Indonesia, in all from Sabang to Merauke. Agrarian conflict, the case of the labor, and many things. But we can see, so every person and groups whom rights had been violated could be reporting and complaining to Komnas HAM. So this is also the mechanism that already guiding by National Law of Human Rights, that everyone in Indonesia, the national citizen, have the rights how to make the report to Komnas HAM if they are facing the situation that a lack of human rights violation. So every day, under the mandate of the enforcement of human rights, our supporting system in Komnas HAM receiving report from many regional to our office. Next. Yes. So every single province. We have a branch office in 6 provinces in Indonesia beside Jakarta. So in Papua, in Palu, in Padang, in Aceh, in West Kalimantan, and in which one? Yes, that? Ambon. Yeah. So we supporting 6 provinces, yeah, branch of Komnas HAM. Of course, this is very few because the a lack of human rights violation coming from all provinces everywhere in Indonesia. Next, yeah. So who being reported to Komnas HAM every year? Actually, there are no change. Who always being reported to us? The first one, number 1, is police, because unprofessional in handling the case of law enforcement, delay in justice, torture, yeah, and etc. The second one is the government, national government, local government, and the third one is the corporation. The corporation usually regarding with the case of agrarian conflict, regarding with the palm oil, yeah, tambang, nickel, and etc. Also coming from all of the region in Indonesia, but in the last 4 years, especially regarding the PSN, National Priority Project. This is the 10 years development program under the government of Jokowi, yeah, before Prabowo. Indonesian government formulating the National Priority Program, we call PSN. There are about 215 PSN in Indonesia regarding with the building the infrastructure, airport, runway, highway, irrigation, and etc. And from the 216 PSN Indonesia, 114 being reported to Komnas HAM. So more than half. And of course, there are some human rights violation happening to our society, right to life, also happening, right to welfare, right to secure, right to health, and also right to expression and opinion, especially for journalism. Because in many times when journalists making the special report regarding with the PSN, then they facing the criminalization from the authority, local authority or national authority. Next. Yeah, so this is the wrap up, the detail of the cases that reporting to us. It's very small. Yeah, it's agrarian conflict, then labor-industrial relation, but mostly regarding with the issues of the unprofessional of the police, yeah, such as torture. If you are remember last year, uh, one cases that very popular, Vina, yeah, Wina or Vina, in Cirebon, Vina, yeah. So Komnas HAM investigate the case of Vina, and there are some finding that that's really happening, the torture to the eight terpidana, yeah. They face so many torture. The process of law happening in 8 years ago. Yeah, next. So, yeah, this is the data. Next. This is the mechanism how to make the report to Komnas HAM. So every people can direct coming to Komnas HAM or can access by WhatsApp, by email, by Zoom and everything. It's very easy to make the report to Komnas HAM, and then our staff will analysis. This is a lack of human right violation, yes or not. If yes, we will continue to follow up, to investigate, or we can do mediation of human right. So mostly we need maybe 1 until 3 months, yeah, to investigate the case. Next. Yeah, next. Okay. In the other mandate, Mas Rangga, please reminder me about the time. If 4 minutes, okay. So I have to fast. Yeah, the other mandate that we have is beside the enforcement of human rights, we have also the mandate to do the research and study regarding with the human rights situation. So regarding with the human rights cases, law and regulation, human rights instrument, human rights norm and standard, and also we have some program, national priority program. Next. This is just for the example. Last year, there are some research that Komnas HAM already done. The first one regarding with the human rights cases, the first one study of the national strategic project, how the impact for the human right that I already shared to you. And then the second one is the roadmap of the agrarian conflict resolution based on human right, because this is the most bigger number of the cases that we always receiving every year. And the third is the environmental, social, and governance policies regarding with the issue of human right and business principle have to be implemented by the corporation. And regarding with the law and regulation, there are some study also. The first one is the study about the effectiveness of the implementation of the national law on human trafficking. We doing this research also collaboration with Bu Iyi. And then the second one, there are some draft of national law that we already study, RUU Polri, RUU TNI, and then RUU Penyiaran. So we are trying to study how this draft of law have the potentially human rights violation if the government will continue to discuss and will continue to make the decision, yeah, regarding with the law. And thanks God, because these three of the draft of law, RUU TNI, RUU Polri, and RUU Penyiaran, the government and the parliament decide to hold, to continue the discussion because of the protest from the civil society and also protest from Komnas HAM to the government. Because TNI and Polri, under this draft of law, will becoming a super body in Indonesia. So under the draft of law of the Polri, Polri will have a mandate how to monitoring all of citizen activities. So Polri can stop our discussion, for example. It's very, very scary. It's very scary. And I think Komnas Perempuan also doing many intervention. And regarding with international human rights instrument, last year Komnas HAM provide three reports to international committee. The first one, of course, the International Committee of Economic, Social, and Culture, and the Committee International Convention of the Civil and Politics, and the last, the Committee to Migrant Workers. So we are preparing the report, and we submit, and we have the discussion with the committee to giving the alternative information that normatively Indonesian government already submit to the government. Under the report and the I'm forget. Under the report of the committee of the International Convention of the Civil and Politics, there are very detailed recommendation regarding with the, for example, general election management, because this committee said that the politics in Indonesia actually there are like abuse of power from the top, for example, from the president until the yes, the above, yeah, the apparatus, that abuse of power to win yes, someone. And then the human rights norm and standard, actually Komnas HAM regularly formulating the norm and standard of human right for government, for civil society, and for everyone to have the reference how to implement the human right principles. Yeah, last year we are formulated the SNP of the rights to decent work and rights for indigenous people, and the national priority program. Okay, next. This is the SNP, national human rights standard that we already formulating in Komnas HAM since 2018. We already published about 15. Next. So this standard, actually we hope that, like state, the law enforcement officer, the civil society could make the reference for this standard in formulating the regulation in law enforcement process and everything. Also in university, usually being one of the curriculum maybe in law and human rights, yeah, for example. And next, and this is mostly regarding with the rights, yeah, rights to health, rights for remedy for the victim of gross human rights and of gross violation of human rights, right to home, and etc. So we can access this data free. Next. This is the last year Komnas HAM starting to ensure that the state responsibility to human rights being assessed by our commission. We starting last year, we call human rights assessment or human rights audit, penilaian HAM or audit HAM. So in the first project, Komnas HAM review 7 ministries in Indonesia in implementing of human rights. We are formulating the indicators, we are formulating the roadmap, and also we are inviting many civil society organizations to give the input to us how to develop the indicators and etc. And in this time, in this time we just finalizing our report, and maybe we will launch soon, maybe next month, and we will know how the score of the, for example, because next. Yeah. So under the human rights assessment, Komnas HAM trying to assess or review the implementation of human rights based on the working of the ministries. There are 2 rights of civil and political, freedom and opinion, and freedom of assembly and association. And then regarding with the rights of economic, social, and cultural rights, we do assess the rights to health, right to education, and also right to work. So some ministry that we assess, Polri, yeah, the police officer, and then Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Information, Ministry of Manpower, also Ministry of Health, and Ministry of Education. So we hope that our assessment, our review, our audit will helping us how to know actually in which level this government, yeah, ministry or institution implement the human rights principle through three indicators: structural, we can see the policies. There are policies already harmonized with the human rights principle. And then the second one, the process indicator about the program, how the program in that ministry relevant in protect, in respect and fulfill of human rights. And the last is about the case. If there are cases happening in that ministry, it's the ministry doing and have the mechanism how to solve the human rights violation under the mechanism that they have. So this our effort how to make sure that the government always under the human rights principle in doing their mandate, yeah, as a government in Indonesia. So this is my last. Maybe you can slide. Next. Yeah. If you need the data about the all thing, you can visit data Komnas HAM Go ID, or if you find someone that facing a problem that a lack of human rights violation, you can also make the report pengaduan at Komnas HAM Go ID or send WhatsApp to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Monggo dipegang. Thank you very, very much, Ibu Anis. I'm very looking forward to the release of the scores from the audit HAM, because, and I have a question about like the openness of government institutions to the work of Komnas HAM, because that's very fascinating to me that they are allowing, 7 ministries are allowing themselves to be dissected by you. But like I'm gonna hold my questions until Ibu Andi has finished with her presentation. I'm going to give the floor now to Ibu Andi Yatriani to give some brief explanation about the work of Komnas Perempuan. Ibu Andi, I give you the floor.
Thank you,
Give
Mas
a warm
Rangga.
welcome to Ibu Andi Yatriani, everybody.
Thank you for having me in this very honored occasion. I think it's actually more nervous thing every time I need to meet students in classes, like I need to be an academic, whilst I'm not really a scholar, but more a practitioners. Yeah, so this is actually more on how I look at the institution that I have been working for the last 25 years. So also, I'm very happy and honored that I am actually invited by Mbak Iyi, who was also a commissioner by then in Komnas Perempuan, one of my mentor, if I can just say so. And also, this is my last 46 days in the office prior to my day of victory. Pas hari kemenangan in Indonesia, it is actually more hilarious because my term ends on the 31st of March. And the 1st of April is not just an April Fool, it is also Hari Raya Idul Fitri, right? So it is Hari Kemenangan. So it's 46 hari menuju Hari Kemenangan. Wow. Yeah. So, National Commission on Violence Against Women, oh, it's not working actually. So I'll just have to do next and next. So National Commission on Violence Against Women was established after the May 1998 tragedy. By then, we have already Komnas HAM. As being mentioned by Ibu Anis, it was established in 1993. So 5 years afterwards. But the fact that there was a mass rape being conducted quite systematically and an indication that the state apparatus was actually masterminding it, if not by a mission not able to protect the citizens. And there is a need for a specific, specialized persons, individuals, including institutions, to work directly on violence against women. Hence, the institution was established. We used to, or we often refer ourselves as the eldest daughter of the Reformation, because it was actually the first independent institution being established in the Reformation era. Hence, Komnas Perempuan embodied not only gender as a perspective and a tool of analysis, but also embodied the vision of Reformation. And it is translated to our way of works in practice, including how we want to elect the commissioners. You know, by then, during the New Order era, which is being stampled down by 1998, right? The tradition is for it's more like PKK Dharma Wanita kind of style when you want to establish a women's organization. So the president will want to have his wife or somebody's wife joining the board of the commissions. Yeah, so the first thing that we did, that the founders did, was actually saying that we want to have an independent selection process. And it has to be that independent that neither entities of the power in government is allowed to intervene. So this is not just because Komnas Perempuan was established under presidential decree. The fact that throughout the history where Komnas Perempuan's institution is strengthened through the revision of the presidential decree, we kept on asking the autonomous authority for selection panel not go through fit and proper test in the parliament, and also not to ask the permit or legalization from the president. So the president need to be noticed and to work with the commission, whomever are selected through an independent processes. And yes, it has its limitations. If you all following, this is the 8 batches of batch of commissioners. There are a lot of critics on the selections. It's not a perfect one. However, it seems, if I'm not wrong, in the review of Ibu Carlina Supeli, who is also a doctor in philosophy, and also in the remarks of Bapak Marzuki Darusman, who is one of our panelists for the last selection processes, this could be one of the most ideal way of doing the selection to ensure the independent and the autonomy of the institution. Now, Komnas Perempuan, this is also the uniqueness of it. We actually deliberately decided not to have any officers at provincial levels. Not that we do not being offered, but we do believe, as I mentioned, we embodied the Reformation vision. We do believe that it should be a bottom-up policy rather than a top-down institutional making. Hence, if we want to have a provincial office, the provincial government need to commit to build that institution. We do not want later on the provincial office will say, hey, we don't have the money because the national budget are not being allocated adequately to our officers. The other thing is actually how we want to work with the civil society. It is actually the power of the civil society that enable reformation to take place in Indonesia. So we believe that we need to build an equal basis of relationship with with the civil society, how to call it, entities. Now, the other uniqueness of Komnas Perempuan is the fact that we are being established with a mandate as a national human rights institution. And this is, and we still cannot find any counterpart in any other countries. Hence, if Komnas HAM have their, what they call, like a forum of national human rights institutions throughout the region, and Komnas HAM this year is actually chairing the Asia Pacific National Human Rights Institutions Forum. But Komnas Perempuan do not have the counterpart. We do have Women Commission in Philippines or in Taiwan, but they work directly under the executive. So they serve as an advisory body, but not a monitoring body as being mandated of a national human rights institution. Komnas Perempuan legal status is also emphasizing the need not only, this is very interesting for me, and I wonder the vision of the founders of Komnas Perempuan that actually managed to add the Convention on Anti-Torture, yeah, and other cruel and inhuman punishment or ill treatments into the legal framework that Komnas Perempuan has to develop when we advocate for women human rights. It's considered as a more kind of masculine instrument, human rights instrument, if I can just say so, despite the fact that later on, the Convention on Anti-Torture also works with other instruments, overseeing bodies that, if you look at the general recommendations or current conceptual frameworks, also looked at how gender-based torture and ill treatment are being practiced and should be advocated. Now, also because we want to ensure that the vision as well as the embodied ruh marwah, what is called spirit of women's movement, feminism, as well as reformation in the same time, we really emphasize on the need for accountability. Komnas Perempuan is one of the first institutions in Indonesia that actually annually and periodically hold a public accountability processes. Actually, according to our legal basis, our accountability is only demanded to be submitted to the president. Yeah, Komnas HAM, they have their own forum with the parliament. Since Komnas Perempuan do not have any ASN or state apparatus within our secretariat, so though we are working under the state budget, our administration is actually enjoined with Komnas HAM. So basically, whenever Komnas HAM go to the parliament, Komnas Perempuan will go together. And yesterday, we met. Yeah, yesterday, because of this, we used to be in Commission 3, now Commission 13. Yeah, and so we went together and also advocate for this so-called efficiency. I was told that I shouldn't actually say budget cutting, but efficiency.
Sorry, is it true that the chair of Commission 13 are all men?
Commission 13? No, it's actually the Commission on Women 8.
That's 8, right? It's all men.
Yes.
All men. The commission that works under, the commission that overseeing women and social welfare, etc. Now, what I want to say is actually this is a very important alignment of women human rights machineries. You have women empowerment ministries working with the Commission 8 in the parliament and Komnas Perempuan in the Commission 3 or 13 now. So is with the Bapenas or the Developmental Bureau because they go to a different division. And because of that, we managed to endorse several advancements in Indonesian context in better protection and for women's human rights. Our financial, what call it, spending is also overseen by the BPK, the Public Finance Monitoring Body, and we also have the tradition to have an independent evaluators for our works. Not only those that being demanded by the donors, because Komnas Perempuan also work with grants, but also, I mean, like institutionally, we do actually look at independent evaluator as a way of strengthening the institution for a more objective and helicopter view. Sometimes we tend to, holding the tradition too much while there may be a different ways of doing things. Can you? No worries. Oh, sorry, I'm working with my computer, but can you go next? Thank you. Okay, so likewise, Komnas HAM, our mandate was first is to promote public awareness. And for us, this is very important because we do know that violence against women actually demand a social transformation. And that, first of all, comes with the changing of perception on violence against women. But we do have the mandate to do fact findings, monitoring, and documentation, as well as strategic studies that all of the results is being utilized to build recommendations. And also in our task, we were also mandated to build a cooperation. I think it's very difficult, to eliminate all forms of violence against women without working with anyone else, thinking that we are superpower and we can deal with all those. Now, for the years of 2020 to 2025, we have 5 priority issues, which is on conflict and disaster, on torture, as I mentioned, and then on sexual violence, on women workers, and also institutional strengthening. I do not go into the details because I want to also show you how we look at our cycle of works next. Also, this is the Board of Commissioners. As I said, I'm heading to my 46 days, last 46 days. But the commissioners are independently selected and elected, and then we comply with the Paris Principles. This is a guidelines by the UN on how the Board of Commissioners, those who are making the decision, need to actually also portray the diversity of the society besides the expertise of the commissioners. I would say that after 25 years, we also need to go beyond group representation politics, but more on how to represent and facilitate the various interests and needs of women who actually also experience diverse discrimination and violence due to the intersectionalities of their identities. But we can discuss further on that. I found that my last comment can be very intriguing for those who are actually looking on representation kind of policy. Not necessarily mean that I disagree with affirmation, because I do believe that affirmation is necessary. And each of the commissioners served for 5 years. I said I have served this commission for 25 years because I joined the commission when I was still a university student. I worked mostly on documentations in conflict situations, rarely on domestic violence, possibly because it is too scary. It's scarier than the communal conflict itself. We have also a Secretary General. Now we have 95 staffs according to the presidential decree, which exclude the other operational staffs like drivers or receptionists, etc., etc. So in total, there are like around 110 of us that works for the commission. Next. Okay, so this is the cycle of work that I want to talk further. So Komnas Perempuan believes that in order to enhance state accountability, we need to start with an evidence-based advocacy. Hence, our work can be said that for the last 25 years, emphasized on how we build knowledge on what the situation of women in Indonesia. So we conduct that through our mandate on, as I mentioned, monitoring, documenting, and fact findings, and also strategic reviews. I'm so sorry with the colors, it's completely different from my computer. What can I say? You can always blame the technology, right? Not to blame yourself. Sure. Yeah. No, this is because of the technology. Efficiency is different thing. It's no, okay. So the first block is actually to build the knowledge, yeah. And then the second part is actually to build consensus, because without the consensus, we will not be able to utilize the knowledge to do a transformation of responses. So these three parts, which is, the first part is the knowledge building, and then consensus building, comprising of strengthening the victims and the survivors communities, doing policy advocacy as well, which means you are intervening with those in power making decision, and also to gather the public supports. And I must say, this has been coming harder and harder, because Komnas Perempuan, if we need to be in competition with buzzer, really, like really. So when they was talking about the efficiency, we're like, we never hire a buzzer. We rely on voluntarism of all of the personnels, media personnels, working with the issue genuinely and authentically theirs, yeah? Okay, and then on transforming responses, that is on intervening more on the case handling, recovery of the victims, as well as the prevention efforts, including in how we actually promote strengthening of protection institutions like Komnas HAM, Komnas Perempuan, or other independent institutions. And for all of these works, we need to install also a perspective of what we call archipelagic, because Indonesia is really a vast country. I went to Maluku Barat Daya, which was like, oh, you know what? You are one of the first national figure that visit this area after almost 70 years of independence of Indonesia. Yeah, we are that vast. We are, yeah. And for the victims to report the case, she possibly need to have to wait for 2 months, because there is a tide, there is no boat, etc., etc. And then if she managed to travel, possibly all of the bruises and other evidence has been gone. Hence, the FISM or the forensic will say that, oh, we couldn't find any evidence of the violence. Yeah. So that is why we really install the archipelagic perspective, and then with the Constitution and women human rights, and then on intersectionality. We do believe that we need to work with cross-border approaches besides women leaderships and also digitalization in this era. Now I would like to, next please, to actually give you a kind of way of how I understand Komnas Perempuan works contribute to the strengthening of states' accountability. So with the knowledge building, we start with a possibility to recognize women human rights as a human rights, and the violence against women is exactly a violation of human rights. I will use an example of our fact findings in Poso after the conflict. It is the first time Komnas Perempuan named that if the police or the army personnel went on a duty and then have a personal affair with the girls or young women in that area and left them, neglect them in pregnant or without pregnancy as an sexual exploitation. This is something that we carry until the enactment of sexual crime law in 2020. The monitoring itself was conducted in 2004. Yeah, that is the space to provide. That is actually a way to provide a space for women victims' voice to be heard, because it's not their fault that they fall into the trap of the sexual exploitation. I'll just put it that way. Now, if you look at the consensus building, our intervention is actually on the state responsibility to respect, including not to do anything such as Komnas Perempuan advocacy for the abolishment or the withdrawal, I think the better term, the withdrawal of the Supreme Court decision to annul the court or to prohibit the court to register interreligious marriage. For us, the interreligious marriage needs to be recorded in order to prevent violence against women and other gender-based consequences from the unrecorded marriages. Yeah? And we also look at the transforming responses as how we want to endorse the arena of obligation, state's obligation, which is to prevent, to build protection, to promote, and also to provide. Yeah, I will not go to the detail because according to the TOR that I got, you all have the whole basic knowledge about these all terms that I just bubbling around, right? Okay, just go next then. But in all of those, although we do not put into the perspective for Komnas Perempuan, victim-oriented approach is in the heart of our works. That is certainly something that we want to install from the very beginning of data gathering throughout the advocacy and when it goes back to the cycle of works. Next, please. This is the key approach. I can do the whole flexing about this, but then I will like to invite you all to our periodical accountability event later on the last week of March. Yeah, so I'll just skip this. I can do more flexing later on. Go to the next. Okay, but this is just an example of it. So Komnas Perempuan laboriously do the data gathering on violence against women in Indonesia, including sexual violence. If we look at the example of Undang-Undang TPKS or the sexual crime law, it's not happening in 5 years or 10 years. It started since the very beginning of the establishment of Komnas Perempuan. Through all of the data, cases, monitoring, fact findings that we did. And later on, we built the consensus during the period of 2011 to 2022 that managed to have the issuance of the law itself. Now we are actually in the phase of what we call transforming responses. We have the law already, but how it's going to be installed. Hence, Komnas Perempuan role is to monitor the implementation, but we also push forward for the derivative regulations, the strengthening of the institution, etc. Go next then. But there are always challenges, and after sometimes I feel like there is a pattern of contestations, where you look at how we move forward, but there always a possibility of stagnation and backlashes. So I'll not go through this, but you know the legal system, politics, history, religion, economy, social, as well as culture as the arenas of contestation. Next then. And it shaped the trajectory of how the state responds to the sexual violence and the sexuality of women in their norms as being stated in the regulations or policies. Yeah, you can have all of this later on. And then, next please. Yeah. So if what we learn is actually stagnation and backlashes are possible. Not only just sometimes ago, suddenly there is an organization now linking it to what Mbak Anis just said. Suddenly one of the organizations said that, Komnas, can you actually issue a letter for us to declare that we can have a permit from the police to hold a festival on digitalization that enabling us to talk about the violence against women in digital era. And I was like, what was that? Like, I need to issue a guarantee letter for an institution, yeah, just simply because we want to talk about violence against women. So what I want to say is that the stagnation and backlashes are possible, and hence this is my very, very last one. Next, please. That is the priority areas. I do not put policy reforms or because that is actually the manifestation on the modalities that we strengthened and how we approach the policy reforms, not as just a goal, but also in the same time as a cycle of works where we want to endorse the state accountability. We shouldn't stop at the issuance of the law itself or just look at criticizing the what do you call it? The substance as well as the implementation. But we really need to work on improving the monitoring system itself so that we can build the capacity for us, advocating the women's leadership is very important. Noticing that not all women have this equal opportunity. Yeah. So don't tell me that, oh, I don't have any problem. Yeah, I also don't have any problem if I cannot work on this matter. But this is not about me, right? This is about how we look at the diversity of women with various forms and layers of discrimination. We need to do alliance building and also raising public awareness. I put institutional strengthening, particularly on women's, on Komnas Perempuan, because although I have said many things about what Komnas Perempuan is, periodically we will have somebody who have the mind of, oh, let's just merge Komnas Perempuan with Komnas HAM. Oh, why not having them? You know, we have already Ministry of Women Empowerment, etc., right? Not to talk about the budget and how we're being cut and the effect us. Yeah, that's another thing as well, another island. But what I want to say is, I would really like to call for a specific attention on how Komnas Perempuan works and how it contributes to the strengthening of state accountability on human rights, and particularly on the elimination of violence against women. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ibu Andi. Again, another very enlightening presentation. I mean, this is why I think you mentioned at the beginning you were nervous about addressing students. But I think it is necessary for students to hear from people with practical experience, because otherwise they're only faced with people like me, who are like very ivory tower, like literally, quite literally ivory tower experience without anything remotely close to like what's happening on the ground. So thank you very much for both of your presentations. Now, I think the custom in Indonesia is that every Friday at 11 a.m. everything stops, right? Because I don't actually know what you're doing at 11, but like I think we can extend this until 11:30 so that we can have questions from you, with your permission, of course. Is that okay? Especially the Muslim men, because I understand that this is Friday and you will have Friday prayers, but I don't think it starts at 11:30. Let's be clear, let's be honest in here, right? I mean, what do you do there anyway? I mean, do you zikir? Do you zikir in there? I don't think so, let's be honest. So now I would like to open the floor for questions, especially from the audience. Do you have anything to ask to Ibu Anis and Ibu Andi? There's one over here, and Priska and the lady in here. Priska is first. I think I'm going to give the floor first to Priska. Oh, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. My question is based on the.
Yeah. So, introduce yourself, please.
Oh, okay. My name is Priska, and I'm from Solomon Islands. I'm doing masters in law. Specific area of study concentration is international organization law. Thank you. So my question is based on Women's Commission aid. Well, like as you stated, it was dominated by men. My question is what or how do you think, because it's the commission for women, but then in your opinion or in your view, what do you think in serving the interest of women in terms of human rights here? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Priska. A very pertinent question that we ourselves are also, we were bitching about that too. So like, this is not only your question, thank you. I think we should like receive the questions first and then have an answer session. Could you, the lady over here, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Holif Rahma Febriana from Department of Politics and Government, Universitas Gadjah Mada. Actually, my question is for Ibu Andi from Komnas Perempuan. As we know, the 2020 National Commission on Violence Against Women annual records identify the rise of a new type of violence against gender in Indonesia, specifically electronic-based sexual violence, which is part of the gender-based violence. I found that the right to be forgotten is one of the parts of legal protection for the victims. Since while the investigation is ongoing, victims' videos, pictures, or data can still be downloaded and spread. Moreover, the bills are often overlapped to one and another, since it happened in like electronic realm. Namely like criminal code, the anti-sexual law, the information and interaction law, the anti-pornography law, and the child protection if the victims are children. So my question is, how does Komnas Perempuan ensure that victims are protected for further harm and re-victimization during the investigation and prosecution process? And what progress has been made in this area so far? Thank you.
Thank you. It's Rahma, right?
Yes, Rahma.
And that's, I feel like Ibu Andi, I feel like that's a question not only for you but for the country. But maybe you could like channel Rahma's. And the third question, I think the lady over there. Oh, okay, careful. She almost died delivering the mic there. The fight of women to.
Okay.
2 sessions.
Oke, nama saya Prachna dari Magister Pembangunan Sosial dan Kesejahteraan UGM. Pertanyaan saya kepada Ibu Anis Hindayani selaku Komnas HAM, berdasarkan mandat Presiden kepada Komnas HAM tadi disebutkan bahwa Komnas HAM itu juga diberi mandat untuk menghandling sosial konflik, Bu. Nah, pada faktanya setahu saya ini banyak aliansi masyarakat yang memperjuangkan hak atas penghidupan mereka atau hak atas tanah rakyat adat mereka yang diperjuangkan. Dan ini tuh terjadi mayoritas itu di wilayah-wilayah yang jauh dari pusat, wilayah-wilayah terpencil katakan. Nah, kasus yang baru-baru ini adalah kasus pagar laut di mana nelayan itu memperjuangkan hak mereka untuk memperjuangkan hak mereka atas sumber penghidupan mereka seperti itu. Itu yang baru di-up ke publik. Kalau yang enggak di-up ke publik saya yakin masih banyak lagi. Nah, pertanyaan saya kepada Ibu Anis, apakah Komnas HAM ini mampu menjamin hak mereka atas memperjuangkan hak mereka, hak untuk mencari sumber penghidupan dan hak atas tanah mereka, Selain itu, apakah perlu Komnas HAM ini memperluas kantor wilayah yang berada di setiap provinsi-provinsi yang berpotensi memunculkan konflik? Seperti itu, di tengah adanya program efisiensi anggaran ini. Apakah itu masih possible dilakukan seperti itu? Terima kasih.
Baik, Mbak Prajna tadi dari Magister apa?
Pembangunan Sosial dan Kesejahteraan, PSDK.
PSDK.
Iya.
PSDK. Thank you. Terima kasih. I'm going to translate Mbak Prajna's question for all our international students. So you're asking about social conflict specifically, and you are wondering the extent to which Komnas HAM can work for the interests of people who are fighting for their standards of living, specifically for land tenure. And there is a concern that these conflicts are happening in remote areas in Indonesia, and knowing that Indonesia is a very vast country, so there is a problem of reach there. And you also have a second layer of question. Does Ibu Anis think that Komnas HAM needs more offices, especially in the face of the need for human rights concerns, while we're facing budget efficiency, so President Prabowo can bring more jets in his visits? She didn't say that, but that's something that I added, because I added that. That's an editorial choice. So thank you very much. Okay, so I think there is a question specifically for Ibu Andi. There is a question specifically for Ibu Anis, but also from Priska. I think you're asking about the constellation of Komisi 8, which is a commission for women's issues, women's concerns, but the leadership is men. So I think both of our distinguished speakers have specific things to say about that. So I give the floor to Ibu Andi and Ibu Anis. Which one would you like to address first?
Okay. About the Commission 9, I hope Ibu Andi will add. Actually, when a parliament decide about the leader for the all commission in parliament, especially for the Commission 8, that the business for the some issues, yeah, women, children, and social protection. So, we already have the communication with the parliament in that time and asking how parliament decide and choose the leader for the every commission, and how to make sure that every leader in that commission have the background, have the passionate, have the everything regarding with their task in that commission. And we ask also, why in that Commission 8 that actually responsible for the issue of women, all of the leader men. And then one of the leader of the commission in parliament answering my question with, oh, I am so sorry, we are not aware about that. It's really, I already showing to him my communication.
She actually showed the text that this gentleman said. Oh, yeah, he said, we forgot. We forgot that women existed.
Oh, I am so sorry, because that's only power sharing amongst political party. So the political party send the name to the leader of the parliament, and then the leader of parliament will membagi-bagi. You will be divide. Yes, to assign in that commission, in that commission, in that commission, that under the power of the leader of the parliament in the time, you know, from Gerindra party. So, they don't care who the leader of every commission are. The leader in the commission 9, for example, for worker health, they have a
Are
capacity.
they, yeah, are they experts in there?
Are they expert out there?
Yeah.
They don't care. That's political decision.
Yeah.
That's the answer. Okay.
My comment is like, yeah, we know that it's the political, it's the parliament members now make the decision, which is we cannot do anything. But on that ground, it's the aid which is controls, which is gonna be the which gonna be the on top thing that if you wanna really address the issue of women's rights, yeah, the aid is the main thing, yeah.
Yeah, of course, I think there are room for civil society to doing protest, to doing a correction also to the parliament, but we're still waiting. The decision is under the authority of the parliament because mostly in many things, the decision of the very important thing in parliament is political decision. It's very difficult for us how to make the intervention.
Yeah. But as I understand it, Komnas HAM has expressed official
Yes,
complaint.
of course. We do the protest to the parliament already. Yeah.
Okay. Ibu Andi, would you like to add something?
To finalize this discussion, or if I can just say so, finalized. But I think we need to also look at the way the commissions are being divided, the roles, yeah? So that commission aid is actually overseeing what's so-called social and religious affair. And that social is actually translated into women and children as well. Yeah? So I want to also link to my presentation. It actually reflects the ongoing contestation on how to deal with women issue. For Indonesian, it's never about just rights and legal justices. It's also about how tradition and religious are actually intervening in how the regulation should be bring around in Indonesia. I will actually use the case of sexual violence law to just make it clearer for you. It is actually first being adopted and being taken as part of the agenda of the Commission 8. But the sexual violence issue is then being confused with morality because the Commission 8 is actually talking about religious affair, morality, etc., etc. Hence, it's a stalwart. Throughout 2015 to 2019, Komnas Perempuan and other groups, including universities, have to deal with black campaign against the sexual crime law, simply because it is linked to a feminist agenda, the way Indonesian history revolved around stigma against Gerwani, and also the way the contestation of political parties also use the advancement of women's rights as a show of westernized ideas. Yeah. So for me, my personal thing, besides this whole thing about the political commitment to women leadership, etc., etc., sometimes it is actually more on reflecting who they want to install to govern women's rights in that commission, not just the sex of the political leaders or the MPs in that. Yeah, you can have a very conservative women even in that commission. Yeah, so what I want to say is that our problem is not only to have all men chairing the commission, but actually we need to do a more thorough review on the perspective of MPs in regards to women's rights issues
Yeah,
and other human rights issues. And that is,
I think this also goes back to what you said at the beginning when you said a potential contentious issue that you said is that we need to go beyond that identity representation, group representation, because I agree with you. When I see women MPs from my parliament, it's like, oh yeah, but like, is she a very, very conservative lady? If she's a very, very conservative lady, then probably not going to advance. Not at all.
no, just last comment on that.
Uh-oh.
I would still prefer to have a conservative women in the part of that chairing.
Okay, I respect that. Okay, thank you very much for your answers. Ibu Anis, would you like to address question about social conflict for Mbak Prajna?
Yeah, thank you. Regarding with the issue of the social conflict, actually when Komnas HAM going down to investigate, to finding some fact, the first one that we have to ensure is the protection for the victim and the protection of the citizen around. Because mostly, in many cases that we are investigated before, the victims usually facing the victimization, also criminalization by the apparatus, mostly police, yeah? So the first one, Komnas HAM usually prioritize to issue the letter for protection letter for the victim to ensure.
Where is that letter from?
From Komnas HAM.
From Komnas HAM, so
Yeah.
you will issue that letter
Yes,
of protection.
yes.
Okay.
So Komnas HAM issues the letter of protection for the victim that we identify they will facing another intimidation, for example, violence from apparatus and etc. So that the first one, the role that we have to take for the protection. The second one, of course, Komnas HAM will doing the fact finding how to invite multi-stakeholders to give us the information, yeah, from civil society, from the victims, from the government, from the police officer, and also observation of the area and many things. Then the last, Komnas HAM will issue the recommendation. That's my big challenge because of the recommendation of Komnas HAM not legally binding under the National Law of Human Rights. So depend on how Komnas HAM make the public argumentation, public orchestration about our recommendation that we already issued to multi-stakeholders, especially for government, corporation, police officer. And in many cases, there are backlash from the corporation, from the police to the victim that making the report to Komnas HAM. So why Komnas HAM always building the cooperation with the national body on victim and witnesses, LPSK, to provide protection for the victim and society, because Komnas HAM cannot doing by only Komnas HAM, so we can do collaboration. If the victim are women, we also communicate with Komnas Perempuan how to ensure the rights of the victim are also protecting, how we do aware for the shelter, for the everything. Yeah. So mostly in our working in investigating the social conflict, we also identify the impact not only in that time when cases being public, but after the case. Usually we do the assessment for the recommendation that we already issued to ensure that the recommendation being followed up by the multi-stakeholders, especially by government, police officer, and etc. And the last thing that's very important, we ensure that the victim receive the remedy Yeah, usually we are using the mechanism that embedded under the LPSK authority. Yeah, so that's the picture how Komnas HAM handling the case regarding with the social conflict. Yeah, usually we need a very long time. Yeah.
Thank you. I hope that answers your question, Mbak Prajana. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, and about Mbak Rahma's question, Ibu Andi, probably it's a very harrowing picture of like a right to be forgotten when it comes to images, footage of sexual violence. So, can you give us a bit of a picture about like what's the work like that Komnas Perempuan has been leading?
Prior to that, I just want to also inform you that Komnas Perempuan do not have a legal authority for investigations. Hence, in comparison to Komnas HAM, we do not have subpoena power. We couldn't actually call officers to our office to provide evidences. However, we do believe that if we if we manage to have a constructive dialogues and through coordinations, and also because we have what's so-called the public information law, then we could also access all of the information necessary in doing the case advocacy. The other thing is Komnas Perempuan is not the first responder. If you look at our mandate, we are not service providers. So if the case is being reported to Komnas Perempuan, and if this victim do not have legal aid or there is a need for counselor, etc., Komnas Perempuan will refer the victims to the service providers. The one that being mandated to provide those services is actually the government offices, right? In Jogja, as well as in other provinces, there are what so-called integrated services under the local government for women and children victims of violence, UPTD P2A. So we will refer them first there, and also noticing that in many areas, it is not have a good performance. Hence, we also need to inform our women's organizations colleagues to monitor the implementation or the services provided for the victims. But in the last 2 years after the enactment of sexual violence law, we have also seen the expediting strengthening of that institution, particularly through a specific allocation of budget to build infrastructure as well as for salaries or honorarium for what we call it technical assistance, including counselors. However, counselors and clinical psychologists is very rare in Indonesia. There is, I think as an example, one counselor for 4 districts, for instance, have to go run and round throughout the time.
Districts are kabupaten.
Kabupaten.
Oh my God.
Yeah, jadi 4 serving 4 districts, just 1 counselors.
That's
Hence, what Komnas Perempuan
against
did,
human rights of the counselor.
yeah. So what Komnas Perempuan does is actually to work with Indonesian Federation of Clinical Psychologists. We built what we call modul dukungan psikologis awal. It's more like an immediate response for counseling of victims before they went to the experts. And it's very necessary, particularly in the remote areas where counselor or counseling capacity is very rare. Now, the other thing is we build also emergency responses through coordinating with independent bodies like Komnas HAM, LPSK, KPAI, National Commission on Child Protection, on disabilities, and also we work with other monitoring body like Kompolnas, the Police Commission, the Prosecutors Commission, or the Judicial Commission. If you remember, there is a women advocate in West Sumatra that being intimidated and threatened by the judge. We call all of the institutions just to make sure that we have an immediate response to the situation. Now, on the issue of online gender-based violence, particularly sexual violence, it's very difficult. Although you can implement rights to be forgotten, and it can be taken down from the platform, however, once it has been downloaded, everyone can upload it again. Yeah? And now with the deep fake, with the AI generating, it's become more and more vicious. And hence, we need to look also at the loopholes, one of which is actually all of the laws that you mentioned, Kak Rahma, it's also have some contradictions in it. Yeah? So Komnas Perempuan is still working on the contradiction, and we also want to install that into the revision of law on procedures, revisi KUHAP. Yeah? Because it's necessarily to do the taking down of the substance from the very beginning of the investigation, not to wait until the decisions of the court, which can take place months after the investigation, right? So we need to install it into the law of procedures. Now, we also think that there is a need to expedite the policies within the cyber unit and the women unit in the police, because they are handling possibly same cases with different perspective. So if that can be joined or bridged, then we probably will have a better prevention for re-victimization of the victims. Yeah. Komnas Perempuan also works on raising or strengthening the capacities of the law enforcers as well as service providers through our academy on sexual violence. Some of the women crisis centers and also pendamping like counselors also do not know how to handle cyber-based violence against women. Yeah, so we need to re-educate actually, or basically to provide a thorough information that can actually utilize in the case advocacy. We also conduct public awareness raising. We have a very, how to call it, discussion with the Ministry of Elementary and Intermediate.
Minister of Education for elementary and mid-level education. Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah. One of our discussions is about digital literacy. I believe that digital literacy is not how to use the mobile phone and the gadgets. It starts with the literacy itself. Hence, it starts with critical thinking that have to be installed even in the early childhood education. Yeah, it's very difficult later on to be able to actually not to be confused or to be persuaded by AI generated, like content, etc., etc. So it's very difficult later on. Without that critical thinking, everybody will be deceived. Lastly, that I want to say is the monitoring of recommendation of case handling that Komnas Perempuan did, because our primary mandate is to conduct monitoring, including the implementations of the laws that being mentioned. I think I just put it that way. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ibu Andi and Ibu Anis, for the previous explanation. So I said that there's going to be 2 rounds of Q&A, but I think if you're looking at the time, if I hold another round, I will deprive the men especially of their religious right to attend to the Friday prayers, and I will be burnt at the stake. The women are welcome to stay. The Muslim men will leave the room. How about that? We agree, yeah? The Muslim men, you are hereby banished from the premises. And the women. But I think the committee actually wants us to end right there. So if I can summarize the sessions, the theme is holding the state accountable. And I think from both of your explanations, it's clear that you are doing everything in your power to do the studies, to do the monitoring, the recommendation. And it is truly up to the state to respect the mandates of reformasi, which in the context of Indonesia, the existence of the Komnas HAM and Komnas Perempuan is because we realized at the start of reformasi that something needed to be done. So now the continued existence of both your institutions should be proof that the state should also continue their commitment to facilitate your work. And I still have lingering questions about the openness of the state institutions to your work, but we're gonna deal with that some other time. But I think as an academic, I am really grateful for what you're doing, because it's clear that when it comes to human rights mechanisms, we're not just looking at courts, but we're looking at victims and survivors facilitation. We're looking at studies. We're looking at investigations of multiple kinds. So you're doing really important work, and I hope you continue to receive the support that you need in the face of budget efficiency or whatever it's called. And specifically to Ibu Andi, I hope this is a good 46 days toward your swan song. And I think this is, and I hope whatever's waiting for you next is a greater place. So thank you for both of our speakers, and may I again invite everyone to give our speakers a big round of applause. Thank you very much, and I give the floor back to the committee.
Okay, please again give an applause to our speakers and moderator. Okay, thank you Mas Rangga for moderating such an enlightening session. And of course, heartfelt thank you to our amazing speakers, Ibu Anis Hidayah dan Ibu Andi Yandriani, for sharing your invaluable insight with us today. Before we conclude, we would like to take group photo to capture this memorable moment. I kindly invite Mbak Iyi to join photo session. Okay. Okay, the first one is speakers, moderators, plus one Mbak Iyi. Yeah, and after that we can capture with the audience. The first one, moderator, speakers, and Mbak Iyi. Okay, let's go. Get ready to smile for the camera. Oh, okay. Okay, no problems. Okay, smile for the camera. 1, 2, 3. Okay, again. 1, 2, 3. Say cheese. Oh, with the sign. Oh, with the sign. Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And after that, we will also take a group picture with all of today's audience. Yeah. Okay. So the camera. Yeah. Everyone, please gather and get ready. Please to stand up.